Hello everybody and welcome to episode 21 of the Shinybees podcast, Pontoon. Today is Saturday the 6th of September and coming up in today's show we've got some knitting news, the Wippin Piccadiily section and an exclusive interview with Victoria of Eden Cottage Yarns.
I feel a need to laugh again with you, if that's alright. I need a drink.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 21 of the podcast, Pontoon. And this has no kind of spoilers for any pattern picks that may come up during the episode. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason behind the choice of title for this episode other than that's what my granny used to call blackjack when she taught me how to play all of the good card games that a young child should know how to play. This was what she called Pontoon. She's like 21 essentially, and hence 21 Pontoon. How are you all? How have you all been since the last time I spoke to you? I hope you're all well and that you're all getting on with planning your autumn knitting, because it is now, I guess, autumn, isn't it? More or less. It's definitely been a couple of odd cold days here and there in Scotland where I've been thinking ahead to some nice sweater wearing. The owls has popped back into my head on several occasions. I really do think I'm going to pick that back up again out of hibernation once I've finished my lush and crack on with that bad boy, be nice and warm. I have moved into my new house now. We moved last Friday and it's now Tuesday and the house is pretty much sorted, to be honest. And the downstairs is much more minimalist than it was. We've been doing a lot of gumtree and a lot of throwing stuff out. And it's a much kind of better layout, although the house is very square and boxy for my tastes, because I'm into Victorian sort of architecture, and this is late 90s architecture, so it's very square, as you can imagine. It's not too bad. I have a utility room, which is very exciting. I've had one of those since I lived in Africa, and there's lots of storage upstairs, so I've commandeered the second bedroom as a spare room / office space, and the walk-in wardrobe that's in there, I have put all my important craft stuff in there, so all of my stash and things is all in there very neatly in piles, and all the other stuff that I don't really care about is kind of still flung on the spare room bed. That's tomorrow's job, when the beast and Sally Mull are going to nursery, and that'll be 2 hours of deep joy, putting books back on shelves and sorting all of that out, really. So I think we've done quite well, to be honest. I think the key was getting Rab and his crazy moving mates to unpack all of the boxes. And they're a bit funny about unpacking your boxes, because they say, oh, well, we're not allowed to unpack unless it's onto a flat surface. And I said, well, surely the inside of a cupboard is a flat surface, love. And he was like, well, yeah, it is, but we're not allowed to put things in cupboards. We're not allowed to put books on shelves. To which Mealy said, well, you're not going home till you empty all these boxes, so you either put them on the shelves or put them on the floor. I don't really care where, but you can't leave until these boxes are empty. And funny enough, as soon as Friday dinner time comes, they're very much keen to put stuff where it's meant to go. And even if it's kind of illegal for health and safety reasons / I want to get out of here reasons. So because we didn't have boxes and boxes everywhere we could move around, it was a lot easier just to throw stuff away where it needs to go, and also put a big pile of stuff that we just know we don't want anymore. So Gumtree and eBay are having a field day with us at the moment, getting rid of all the stuff that we don't want. Naturally, the children's bedrooms were a focus of activity for the first couple of days, so that they were at least ready for them to go into. And the beast has got her big girl bed. She had a little sort of toddler bed, and although she's now 3.5, she's absolutely huge, as I've mentioned before, so she wasn't really sleeping particularly well in the little bed, because I just don't think she had enough room. And she sleeps like a bag of rats, to be honest with you. She's just I would never share a bed with her, because every time I do I end up getting booted and kicked to the point where I have to kind of top and tail so she'll stop kicking me. So we got her a new bed, and she wanted a pink bedroom. Yeah. Despite never really pushing the whole dolls and pink stuff thing all of a sudden she's got it into her head that pink is for girls and blue is for boys, and she'd quite like a pink room, thanks very much, and not the nice kind of green and mint colours that she had before. So I managed to get around this by putting up spearminty green curtains and having blue and green accessories, and sort of getting one baby pink lamp, a really cheap one from Argos, and getting some bedding that had bits of pink on but had a lot more green and blue on it. So she seems really happy with that, which is ideal, really. We're going to get some little fairy lights to put around her bedstead because it's quite an old-fashioned Victorian, faux Victorian one. It's not an actual proper Victorian bed. So she's loving that, and I'm loving that everything in there is really neat, and a little tidy bookshelf's up and everything's fine. And good old Sanimal's got a lot of aeroplane wall stickers on his wall. So it's all good. Hopefully the acoustics in this room won't be too bad. I'm aware that it's quite... We have got carpet and stuff, but it's still quite empty. So it might be a little bit echoey this episode. Hopefully if that is the case, then I'll try and see if there's somewhere else I can record where it's not quite so echoey for you. But yeah, everything's good. I will tell you a little bit more about the local area, etc. in the next episode probably, because we've not, obviously as you can expect, had chance to go and have a good look round. I do know the area because I've lived, my husband's lived here before, and I used to visit a lot when he lived here when we were courting, when we were both young and no children and plenty of spare money. We both drove sports cars, but no, yeah, we've got a diesel, and my dad just gave us his like cast off car as well. We're proper like unglamorous these days, but hey, you know, it's funny to think back to the good old days, and now we're kind of carting kids around and looking for places to go and take them to play, but hey, it's all good. So once I've kind of refamiliarised, I'll give you a bit of a rundown of the area as I normally do when I move house, for those that are interested. But in the meantime, we'll make this hopefully a shorter episode than last time, although I understand you all enjoyed the interview in particular. Last time there's been several comments about George's passion cake in particular, and I almost went on Photoshop and photoshopped a picture of his face onto a picture of Heisenberg, but I've not yet. So in this episode I do have another interview for you, as I promised last time, that I've been sitting on for a while. I managed to interview her at Unwind, and it's really good because you can hear all the bustle of Brighton and the seagulls in the background, so I hope you'll enjoy that. It is an interview with Victoria of Eden Cottage Yarns. So I'll save that up to the end, but in the meantime I've got a little bit of knitty news for you, and then we have the Wippin Piccadiily section. So get yourself a gin and tonic, because I think I need one by now, and we'll crack on. So as usual, got a little bit of knitty news to start you off, the first of which is an announcement from Louise of Knit British podcast, which was concerning a podcaster lounge at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which is going to be taking place next March in Edinburgh. If you haven't heard about it, get yourself over to her podcast and listen to her latest episode, which is episode number 10. It was only released on the 29th, so it's not quite been out for a week yet, and she'll give you a bit more information on that. I don't have any further on that at the moment, although I do know there are some exciting plans and there will be some exciting announcements coming up regarding that. So she's a person who's going to be announcing a lot of them first, so keep your ear out for anything coming from her if you're going to be coming along to that. I'm definitely going. It's my birthday weekend. I don't need any further excuse than that, in all honesty. So there you go. Also, I have a new blog for you to have a look at. This is a blog written by a lady called Isla, and it's called Isla of Axholme. She lives in North Lincolnshire, and she writes about knitting and books and yarny days out, and it is a new blog. Now, I don't normally mention everyone's blogs that I read or that people write to me about, but she'd been thinking about writing this blog for a while, and she was a bit too scared. And I actually met her through the Lush Knit Along that we're doing, and she listened to one of my old episodes about fear. I think it was episode number 5, and she was just like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I just thought, and she just emailed me and said, I thought I'd tell you, it's all your fault basically. I'm going to start this blog because I listened to your episode and I thought, yeah, what's the point in waiting? I'm going to get on with it. So let's show her a little bit of support if you don't mind going over. It is islaofaxehome.blogspot.co.uk, and I'll put a link in the show notes. But head over there. She's got some lovely pictures of the great Scottish tapestry, and she's been visiting some yarn shops and stuff. So if that's the kind of thing you like to read about, and she does have a very nice writing style, then get yourself over there to have a look at that. Other than that, the only other yarny news I have for you is that the latest the latest instalment of the Golden Skein has started to hit mats all over the country. Obviously, I can't talk about it yet because not everyone has received their parcels, but hopefully by the next time I podcast, or definitely the time after, I'll be able to tell you all about it. There is a bit of a plan being hatched at the moment in the Golden Skein group for a knit-along, and this is going to be hosted. It was suggested by Poke to Goblin, and she's very kindly agreed to host it for us. And it's basically going to be aimed at liberating some golden skeins, but because it's kind of scary to pick your own pattern, then one of the other group members is going to suggest patterns for you, and people are going to vote on it. So peer pressure, get those golden skeins, get them released. It doesn't need to be a TGS golden skein. It can be any golden skein in your stash that you want to use, but you don't have the kahunas to cast on, essentially. So I'll give you more information about that when it is finalised, but that's another thing to look out for you. So, on to a giveaway. We do love a good giveaway over here at the Golden Skein, so I was delighted when I was contacted by Louise Tilbrook of Louise Tilbrook Designs, who you will have heard several times mentioned before on the podcast, and who I actually mentioned last time and said I'll get back onto you later, and then didn't get back onto her because I'd planned to put the giveaway in this episode instead. But Louise has designed a shawl, and it is the very first pattern we've had designed in a TGS yarn, in fact, and she used the Sparkle Duck Nimbus yarn, which was the Yak Blend yarn in the last quarter, the Fruits of Summer quarter, and designed a shawl with it. This is called the Autumn Crocus Shawl, and she's very kindly agreed to give us 3 copies to give away. It is normally £3 to buy because it's paid for pattern, and the plan is that it will be part of a larger collection of shawls about the area in which she lives. And I'm going to read you the blurb straight from the pattern page so you get an idea of what the pattern is all about. Autumn Crocus is a fun, relaxing shawl designed to use a sock weight yarn with limited yardage of less than 400 yards, paired with a contrast yarn from your sock weight leftovers. Always a good thing in my opinion. Fun and frugal, the perfect combination. Knit from the top down, there is plenty of soothing stocking stitch and a simple but effective garter stitch and lace panel repeated at intervals. Once the main body of the shawl is complete, the lace border is worked with no further stitch repeats, making for a stress-free end to your project. The shawl was inspired by the Where I Live craft along, which was hosted by Stitch Together podcast. I'm just adding a few kind of notes in here. When it's like less in a BBC announcer voice and more in a Joe voice, that's when I'm adding things in, just so you know. And reflects the fact that Saffron Walden, where I live, was named for its fields of crocus, the saffron harvest being a chief source of income from the growing medieval market town. So, as I mentioned, this is going to be eventually part of a series of designs, and she's very kindly offered to give 3 copies away to listeners of the podcast. In order to enter the giveaway, you need to go into the Autumn Crocus giveaway thread, and there will be a separate thread, not the episode thread, a separate thread in the group. And what she would like to know is which of Louise Tilbrook Designs patterns appeals most to you. So we're helping her out as well with a little bit of market research, so please don't just pick the first one that comes up. Please do try and give some good information, because I know she will really appreciate it, and she does always take feedback on board from people. And in return for your time, you are in with a chance of winning one of 3 copies of the Autumn Crocus pattern. Entries will close on the 30th of September. So make sure you get your entry in before then, please. And I will announce the winners thereafter, and Louise will send you the pattern on Ravelry. So if you've got any questions about that, or you want to look up any more of her designs, she does have a group on Ravelry called Louise Tilbrook Designs, and it is quite chatty. She's got a good chat thread in there, so I will also link to that in the show notes, and you can go over and have a look. So on to the Wippin Piccadiily section. It is quite a short section this time, chiefly because I've mostly been working on the Lush knit along, which I spoke to you about last time. And it would appear that people walking around upstairs in my house is very audible downstairs. I do hope he doesn't fall through the ceiling. So apologies if you hear any creaking in the background. It's not kind of like medieval chic, it's mid-90s chic. But hey, let's get on with the show. So the Lush Pod knit along is going well. It is still running and you still can join, but you have till the 14th of September to get all of the body and one sleeve done, which constitutes 75%. 12 days to go, and I'm only decreasing for the waist. It's not that I've not been knitting on this pattern, and it's not that I don't like it. I've not had time. Obviously, I have moved house and tidied my entire house away into something that's actually livable, and hosting people coming round a ball in sort of 3 days. So you can imagine how much knitting time that allows for, and that's quite in between posting out for TGS and other freelance work that I've been doing. So yeah, the knitting is not progressing as quickly as one would like, but it looks really nice. And I did do a little sneaky try on last night, and it seems to fit really nicely at the top, so I'm hoping I can fudge out the bottom of the hip so they'll be a little bit wider. And once I've done that, I think it'll be crack on time. I think now that most of the house is put away as well, and I'll have a little bit more free time hopefully in the evenings to knit on with this, I'll be able to get more of it done. Whether I will have the sleeve done in time for the cast off date, I don't know, but I'm certainly trying, and I don't think anyone else has moved house in the middle of the knit along, so there's my defence, Your Honour, and I'm sticking to it. Otherwise, in other projects, the only thing I've really had chance to work on is the Tutti Frutti socks, which were a pair of just ordinary afterthought heel socks done to, well, my own pattern really, I guess. And this was knit in the Desert Vista Dye Work self-stripe yarn, in the colourway The Fruits of Summer, which was a yarn from the second quarter, the Golden Skein Club. It was a 75% merino, 25% nylon, standard sock base, and I think it was a 6 or 7 stripe repeat. And this was all going really fine. I really enjoyed it. I like the idea of just putting a little kind of zip yarn, the kind of holding yarn, waist yarn in and cracking onto the toe. It's a lot less fussy than doing the whole heel turn thing that you normally have to do, and fiddling about with increasing and decreasing. And it was my first ever go at doing magic loop, and I'm really enjoying that technique. I'm going to use that for the sleeves on my Lush. And Clare Devine, Sock Queen, had made me a special little spreadsheet, which I took great delight in showing off at Fluff and everywhere else that I could show off, that I had this special spreadsheet for working out exactly how much, how many rounds I needed to do and everything, because she's a ninja and she made me a spreadsheet, and I just followed what she said. Well, yeah, I followed what she said until it got to the afterthought heel part, and I watched someone else's video on YouTube, and this is where it all started to go a little bit wrong, because I watched someone else's video, and then this person recommended that you add on like half an inch of just straight knitting round before you started the decreases. So I did, foolishly, and it was too big. I even brought it to Unwind for my friend who has slightly larger feet, my friend Kate, with the monkey socks. I was hoping to placate her with my non-monkey socks and try and give her these ones instead, but they were too big even for her. So yeah, Claire was really upset that her spreadsheet hadn't worked, or so she thought, and said to me, well, what did you do wrong? And I said, oh, well, this lady on this video said to do this, and she's like, did I tell you to do that? No. And there was no extra rows, and yeah, in future I'll just do what she says and not try and be clever and watch YouTube to do anything. So The other one I did, and that's actually fine, I did that according to the Devine instructions, and funny old thing, it worked like a charm. So I just need to rip out the heel again and re-knit that, but it's on hold for the moment, as I have been knitting, started and finished, an In Threes A Baby Cardigan by Kelly Herdrich, which is a paid for pattern, and it is $6. I've called it Bees in Threes because it's knit for baby Beatrix, as she's now called. I didn't know she was going to be Beatrix when I knit it, but Bees in Threes works quite well for me. And I knit that in Drops Charisma Superwash. I think I called it Alaska last time I talked about it, but it wasn't, it was Charisma, I was lying. And the original plan was to knit it in the DK Charisma Superwash, because I wanted Superwash because it's a baby knit, but to go down a needle size but go up a size. So I wanted it to fit a small child, so I was going to go down a needle size to 4mm, but I was going to go up a size in age, so then it would be somewhere in the middle, you know, dead technical fudgery. And in the end I just knitted it on 5mm needles, so it's definitely going to be a 12 months 12 month size. In fact, it fits Animal, so, and he's 19 months, albeit a small one. So it's definitely going to be one that she's going to grow into at least. And but really nice, really simple pattern, really unoffensive way to make baby knits for people who, I mean, luckily my friend is knit worthy. I know she'd love it anyway, but if you're knitting for someone and you're not really sure of their taste, it's impossible to be offended by this pattern. It's just a really simple little 3 buttons at the top, and it goes from kind of a few garter stitch rows, and then it goes down in a couple of garter stitch rows like bands at the bottom, and it's a kind of swingy open one, so really good for growing into. Really, it can be like a slightly longer one, and then as they get bigger it'll obviously get shorter. The fabric of the yarn of the kind of the knitting obviously was a little bit more drapey than it would have been had I knitted in the right yarn. It would have been a lot firmer. But I think it's quite nice because it's quite kind of stretchy and a bit lightweight and easier to move around in, I would think, for a child that's at that age going to be kind of starting to walk, I guess. So yeah, that was started and finished all in a oneer. I started it on the train back from Elgin. I came up here the other week for a job interview, and I cast it on the way from Elgin to Aberdeen, and then I was on the train from Aberdeen, and there was these 3 fellas asking me about knitting and whether it was going to be done in time, and I was just like, yeah, of course it's going to be done in time. The baby's coming on Monday. This was like Thursday. The baby's going to be here on Monday, so yeah. It wasn't done by Monday, but it was done not long after, so definitely recommend that as a pattern for any gift knitting for babies. And that's it for the Wippin Piccadiily section. On the sewing front, I have today just knocked up 2 dog beds, which was quite pleasing. I used a fleece blanket that I'd got from Dunelm, I think. It was a single size fleece blanket, and once I'd washed it, it wasn't lovely and soft anymore. It was kind of like a bit clumped together. Well, it was still soft, but it looked a bit untidy. So what I did was I went to Argos, other catalogue stores are available, and bought a double 13.5 tog duvet, which I cut in half, and then I folded that into thirds to make 2 kind of fillings for the dog bed, and I had to sew along one end. I'm doing hand actions now while I'm talking about this. I had to sew along. I cut slightly to the left of one of the seams in the duvet, which obviously splits it in half, and then I sewed along that with the machine to close up that end. So I had 2 pieces, which I then folded into thirds, and I got the single size fleece, and I folded that in half and cut that in half, and then I folded that in half again, so it would be like a quarter of a single size, sewed around it and left a little pouch open, turned it the right way out, folded the half of a duvet, so you could just get single duvets, but it will cost you a little bit more, into thirds, put that in there, sewed down the little end, times 2, job done. So that saved me probably 40 quid, because dog beds are really, really expensive, so I wasn't up for that. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to reuse this and just get a cheap duvet, and you know what, when it's done I'll do another one. I'm sure I can wash it a couple of times before it actually becomes really lumpy and you can't use it again. Unlike dog beds, which are lumpy after the first wash. If you can even wash them at all, who would design a dog bed that you can't machine wash? Seriously. But people do. So yeah, that's my top tip for the sewing front. If you fancy having a crack at a dog bed, it was probably took me maybe an hour and a half to do, so it was time well spent, I think, this afternoon. Anyway, with that said, I think we'll move on to the interview. So here's the moment you've all been waiting for, and waiting for me to stop wittering for, and that is the interview with Victoria of Eden Cottage Yarns, which is an indie-dyed yarn company from Leeds in the UK if you're not familiar, although I would be surprised at this stage if you're not familiar with Eden Cottage. And she very kindly agreed to give me some time at the end of Saturday on the weekend of Unwind, so I think we were both a bit fried by this point, in all honesty. To talk to me about all things kind of yarny and business related. I found it a really interesting interview actually, and she is as warm and funny as she sounds in real life. She's just one of these people that you feel like you've known forever when you first meet her, really. I don't know if it's a kind of northerner to northerner thing, or whether it's just that all northerners are brilliant and everybody loves us, which is probably the latter. And I thought she had some really interesting points, and a really kind of inspiring attitude, really, was the main thing I took from it. I hope that will be what you take from it too, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And as always, please let me know what you think. So without further ado, we'll go back to the future and chat to me and Victoria back in July. Okay, so we're here today, Victoria and I'll call you Victoria because I'm not sure whether it's okay to call you Vicky.
Oh, whatever. Any derivation that you can possibly think of.
I mean, because I'm Northern, I always think of Sticky Vicky, so I'm always really wary of calling anyone Vicky whose name is Victoria. So,
I don't mind. I introduce myself as Victoria, but I really don't mind.
Okay, I quite like Victoria. We'll go with Victoria.
All right.
So I'm with Victoria of Eden Cottage Yarns, and not in fact Sticky Vicky of Benidorm fame. And we're in the Pavilion Gardens. You know who Sticky Vicky is, so it's all right. In Brighton, it's a beautiful sunny day. It's towards the end of Unwind, and Victoria's very kindly offered to come and speak to us about Eden Cottage. So
kindly offered to take a break from the stall.
Yeah,
who wouldn't take up an offer like that?
I know, especially with ice cream as well.
Yeah, I know.
Lovely. So there's a couple of gentlemen asleep in front of us on the grass with cans of Scrumpy Jack. So we feel like we're at home up north. And we'll crack on with the interview. I can tell there's going to be a lot of laughing in this interview. There's been a lot of laughing already. So can you tell us a bit about yourself as a person and about how you became interested in everything yarning?
Yeah, well, I taught myself to knit when I was at uni. Funnily enough, I was studying architecture, and we were actually in the same building as the textiles people. And I remember that when I was thinking about going to uni, I kind of wanted to do textiles. I think, I'd always been kind of interested in it, but I couldn't see any direction that I could go in, and sort of like teachers and my parents were like, well, architecture, it's a career, isn't it, whereas textiles kind of isn't. so that was that. I think I got talked into doing architecture, but then we were in the same building, and I used to kind of pine for it a little bit. So anyway, I taught myself to knit while I was there, and it was a downhill spiral really from there onwards.
Isn't it always, really?
Yeah, but it's like I taught myself to knit, and then I wanted to have a go at spinning, and then I wanted to have a go at dyeing, and it just all goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Yeah. I think if you're creative minded, if you're a creative kind of person, you're interested to try everything.
Yeah.
And and it might be that you settle on one thing that you do a lot of, or it might be that you're a jack of all trades. Whatever. But I just think if you're generally creative, then you want to try new things, and it's just that, really. Yeah. So what was the tipping point then that turned your hobby at uni and being a closet kind of textile artist, if you will, into a yarny business? Well, I left uni because I must admit I hated it. I hated every minute. And I stuck it out for 4 years, but got to the point where it was like, this is just such a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
And actually I don't want to be an architect. I just hate it. So I left and I moved back down to Lancashire, and kind of faffed about in different jobs for a few years. And I worked at Pearl City Yarns. That was really cool.
Oh, yeah,
that was
really
cool.
that.
Oh, did you not?
No,
Yeah,
how did I not know that?
Yeah, I worked in Pearl City Yarns. I think it was about 11 months, the first 11 months when it opened.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really cool, and I kind of think that helped embed it in my, I don't know, my conscience or whatever. And then there came a point where my personal circumstances changed quite dramatically, and I couldn't afford to stay on in my flat, and I was suddenly single, and like I had a massive amount of debt, and it was kind of like everything went to pot. And I was thinking, oh, what to do, you know, and you have that awful kind of few weeks of waking up in the morning not knowing what the hell is going to happen with your life, and I was sort of considering signing up for like council housing and all different things. And anyway, in the end, I woke up one morning with a dawning realisation, as you do, that my stepdad still had his first house in Cumbria from the 70s, and I kind of forgotten that he still had it, but he'd never been back. He kept it as a holiday home, but never returned really, and it was kind of crumbling farmhouse. And I just kind of thought, there's a house there, it's a bit crumbly and a bit spidery, but I could move there, and so I did. And I had no job lined up. I didn't know anybody, I had no money at all, no income, nothing. And it was very spidery, and I was really phobic of spiders at the time. So that kind of helped as well. So I've managed to pretty much get over my phobia, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I did up the house gradually while I was living there, but I had a really, really cold winter. The first winter was really cold, and built up this business because I just thought, this is the only time of my life where I've got no kids, I've got no partner, I have no other responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, if there are weeks where I can't afford food or coal or whatever, it doesn't matter because there's only me to look after and to worry about. And so that's what happened, and there were quite, you know, that like I say, that first winter was really, really tough, because I did struggle to afford things like food, and the heating was run on coal, so I was buying like a sack of coal just when I could. Nothing. It's like really, really living hand to mouth. But it's probably done me good.
Yeah, I think so.
It probably has. It's probably made me a right skinflint.
Well, it's obviously working, isn't it?
Yeah, but
and was that Eden Cottage?
That was
the Eden
Cottage?
Was,
yeah, because I figured that it was in the Eden Valley.
Yeah.
And I was living in a cottage, and the name just kind of fell into place.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was it really. It was just a case of, I've got nothing else to do, I've got no other plans, I've got nothing left to lose, so why the hell not make a go of it?
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're in that situation and like you say, you don't have the responsibility, some of the fears that stop people taking that leap,
there's none of that,
are not there.
Because I just thought, well, you know, if there are a few weeks in a row when I'm really, really skint and I'm at the point where I can't afford food or anything, well, I'll look for a job. You know, because there's quite a bit of tourism up there. It's near Appleby, so there's kind of like there's lots of fell walkers and things like that. So there's a lot of B&Bs and small restaurants and things like that, and hotels and that. So I always thought, well, I could just get a job as catering or as a cleaner or whatever. You know, so I just kind of thought I'd wing it really, and that was it.
It's good. No, it's a very inspirational story to hear.
I think I was very lucky though. I was really, really lucky to just have that time of having the opportunity and actually kind of, I think, realising that was a good time to try it. Yeah. I think it was very lucky.
Well, there's always an element of luck in everything and timing, but equally there's always a lot of hard work behind any venture like that. So
yeah, it is really, really hard work. It's really, really hard. You know, you kind of, you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, it's just, you just have to be prepared. Well, for a start, you have to be prepared to do absolutely every aspect of everything. So, you know, you have to come up with your own kind of like your branding and your design and like anything that you can possibly think of. You have to be prepared to try it yourself. You know, you have to be prepared to try and build your website yourself, and I used to think to myself, like for example with the website, I was looking at all these different hosts, and I kind of thought, I really need someone to design a website for me, but I just can't afford it. And I thought, well, what's the one asset that I do currently have right now is time.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have the time to sit down and read through the instructions and learn how to create this website. I think you've got to be prepared to just work through everything, and if it takes you, if you have to pull all-nighters to do it or whatever it happens to be, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Because then later on in your career you get to the point where you can afford to pay people to do all that stuff for you, but in the meantime, you just got to do it. I think, and then it starts to look after itself, so it pays off.
I know what you mean. Definitely. That's website issues. I never thought I would be doing this stuff. I'm sat there like, I'm doing all this myself, darling, because my husband normally does the technical stuff, but I've learnt it all myself, because I was like, no, I need to know how to do this. So I completely get where you're coming from.
And it's worth keeping on top of it, really, as well, isn't it? And reminding yourself how it works and stuff. Even if you get to a point where you're paying somebody else to do something, it is worth, I think, keeping up with it.
Definitely. Well, I think one of the normal questions we go to is a time when your business where things haven't gone necessarily to plan. But I think it kind of started out from things not necessarily going to plan.
Yeah, it did,
so we'll go.
I've never really had a particular plan. It's just all kind of happened.
It's been quite organic.
Yeah. But I think that's a great way to build a business. I never borrowed any money. There was never any liability. There was never anything like that. It was just like, here's how much I've made, here's how much you've got to reinvest, and you just gradually build it up, and it just snowballs. But I think, it is possible to do it without a plan, which I don't know whether I should be saying that, but it is, and without like a loan or investment or anything like that. It's perfectly possible. It's just, you just have to be prepared to put the work in, I think.
That's definitely a fair point, I think. I've got a question, and obviously you didn't read the question. Well, I didn't read the question.
No, I didn't get time.
You didn't get a chance to see the question because you were busy navigating the massive traffic jam I'd been sat in as well for 7 hours.
I think everybody was in it, weren't they?
It was horrific.
I know.
What is your favourite quote that you turn to for inspiration? It's a difficult one.
I don't know. I don't think I have one. I really don't know.
Well, maybe you can email me one when you've had a chance to think
about
it on the
drive
home.
As in like from somebody else.
I
don't know, there's probably quite a lot. I've probably retweeted quite a lot. I would say probably something to do with taking opportunities. I think would probably be it. Something based around that. I think you've got to, I just think life is short, and I just think you've got to live it to the full, and not just sit on your backside and kind of let it pass you by. I think you've got to, I'm not terribly kind of energetic or anything like that, but I do think you've got to be prepared to take opportunities and to sort of start saying yes to opportunities and stuff like that.
Definitely. I'm totally on board with that, because that's how TGS started. Was from my friend flying into another aircraft and dying at 27, and that is how it ended up starting, because I had all this yarn and I thought don't want to be that person in that plane who think it's all fine one day and the next minute lights out, and I'm not going to think I wish I'd never knitted that yarn if I'm sat at the pearly gates or what have you, and that's how it all kind of started.
Definitely.
It's strange, isn't it, really?
I think there are moments like that, and you just think, I've got to live life to the full. Even if that is taking an afternoon relaxing, just enjoy it. Just enjoy every minute and enjoy everything that you do. Don't stress about things. Just get your head down and get on with it and enjoy it.
Do something and then deal with what happens afterwards. I think we've covered the next question, so go on to the one after that. And it's good because you're just freestyling, and I like that. We've been having a lot of chat.
Freestyling.
Like two little old ladies. Which one thing that you know now did you wish you had known when you picked up the first ball of yarn?
Maybe do a tension square.
Really?
Use nice yarn. Use nice yarn.
What was your first ever ball of yarn?
I think it would have been some black acrylic. The first thing that I ever knitted was a Fair Isle hot water bottle. And so I learned how to cast on, and then I learned how to do stocking stitch, and then I learned how to bring in another colour, and it was purple. So I started with black, and then I brought purple in, and it was purple Fair Isle. So that must have been it. Never again.
Brilliant. Okay, so it's time for a random question. More random than the questions you've had so far. Everybody knows that knitters love cake.
Yeah.
If you were a piece of cake, what kind would you be and why?
Victoria sponge.
Ah, and why would you be a Victoria sponge?
Because I bloody love it.
It's good, isn't it? You can make it into loads of stuff as well.
Exactly, yeah. And you can put whatever you want on top. Delicious. Have it with a cup of...
What is your favourite go-to resource for either yarn craft or in your business world that you couldn't do without?
Ravelry. Yeah. I bet everybody says that, but yeah, Ravelry. Yeah. I really think Ravelry's just totally revolutionised the whole knitting industry, I would say. I mean, certainly from working in a yarn shop and from going around shows, you know, people are walking around with like their smartphones out and they're on Ravelry looking at the patterns as they're looking at the yarn, or like they'll just say to us, oh, could I just log in on your phone and just check this in my queue? And it's just amazing. It's so cool, and it's a social media thing as well. Yeah. So it's given us a chance to connect with people that you would never normally get a chance to connect with. Mind you, I would say the same for Twitter actually as well. But yeah, certainly. I mean, Ravelry is an amazing resource. It really, really is. It's just fantastic. And then after that, I would say Twitter. I mean, I'm really addicted to Twitter. I love how it's so fast and so instant, and you can just take a snap on your phone and immediately get it on Twitter, and you can talk to people like with Ravelry that you would never normally talk to. You know, you're all there, you're all on a level playing field. It's just wonderful. I just think it's brilliant.
Oh, it is. I do love my Magnus's daily yarn porn. I'm like, yes, come on, it's nearly time for the yarn porn. What's on a washing line today? I love it.
It's just endless photos, bad photos of yarn.
No, I love them.
You must get sick of it at some point.
No, I'll start making lists of what I'm going to buy at the show. I'm like, I've seen this one. I wonder where that is now. It's terrible.
I just love it. I love Twitter, it's brilliant.
Everybody needs yarn in the morning. I'm sat there and like the kids are squabbling and I've got to listen to Peppa Pig in the background with my first cup of tea shaking, and then up pops my Eden Cottage porn for the day. Yes!
It helps if it's daylight early, because I can take some pictures nice and early.
Oh, don't. Winter's going to be horrendous.
I know.
In northern Scotland there'll be no yarn porn till 11 o'clock.
Oh God. Elgin is quite far north.
It is quite far north. It's pretty though.
Yeah. That'll be good.
So what we'll do is we'll just do whether you've got any parting words for those people who are thinking about getting into the industry but they're not sure
parting words. How long have you got?
Should we write a book? And then we'll go to where people can find you, and then we'll wrap up.
Cool. Yeah, parting words, I would say just go for it. Firstly, be prepared to work really, really hard. You know, you will be working very, very long hours. I think the thing is, it takes over your life, and you need to be prepared for the fact that this thing will take over your life. If you think, if that terrifies you, then it's not for you. Yeah, which is fair enough, really. Yeah, I just think if the thought of it taking up every waking minute is something that you don't want, then running a business is not what you want to be doing. Yeah. Because you don't switch off ever. You know, you have to, the only thing that distracts you is something that takes up, you know, all of your attention that's different. But even then, you know, you can be thinking in your head, oh, I've got to be doing this, that and the other, and oh, those colours and all this kind of thing. You know, it never goes away, and you have to love it enough that it taking up that amount of time is okay. Yeah. And it will take up your entire house as well, so there's that as well. The other thing is, get an accountant. Definitely get an accountant. do your own bookkeeping, but get an accountant. They are worth their weight in gold. And I didn't believe it before I got one. I just thought, oh no, I can't afford it now. But they are truly, truly worth their weight in gold. Well, there was something else that I was going to say as well, but I can't remember what it was. Just do it. Just go for it. You know, if you're worried about it not working, then do it part time. You know, and build it up. I think in general, I would just say, just do it and be prepared to work really, really hard.
Lovely.
That's it.
So where can we find you?
So the website's edencottage.co.uk. Twitter is Eden Cottage. Facebook, Eden Cottage Yarns. We've got a Ravelry group, which is Eden Cottage Yarns. I'm so original.
Instagram, Eden Cottage Yarns.
I'm not actually on Instagram, but I need to get on Instagram. So if I do, then it will be the same. Is there anything else? A Flickr, maybe? But I'm not sure. I guess if you put in Eden Cottage Yarns, it will come up, but I'm not sure. Yeah, just, I don't know. Just try Eden Cottage Yarns. Yeah. If it's there, it'll come up.
Google me, darling.
No, don't do that.
Oh, yeah. You can find all sorts. Not that I'm insinuating you've done anything bad in your life, but
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm going to stop digging right now. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
And for being so
Thank
candid with your advice and being so chatty.
That's no problem. It's not hard.
Yeah, we better go and pack up.
We had, hadn't we? Is it about 4 o'clock?
It's 1 minute to 4.
Oh, God.
So
We wouldn't know where the hell I am.
I hope the audio on that was okay for you. Unfortunately, when I came to edit it, there was a couple of instances where the microphone, we must have knocked the microphone, it got quite loud, so I apologise, there was a bit of jittery editing in there. Unfortunately, the nature of these things means you can't really go back and re-record over the top of it, so yeah, you'll have to bear with that, I'm afraid. I hope you've enjoyed the interview again, and please do let me know what you think. I really value any feedback that I get. I understand the last interview went down quite well from the messages I've been getting, which is brilliant, and once again there's some slightly kind of cake innuendo in this one, so I hope you'll have enjoyed that. I mean, who doesn't love a bit of sniggering about cake, in all honesty? But all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great week. Happy crafting, and speak to you again soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Shinybees podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found on the blog at www.shinybees.com. Music used in this episode is by Adam and the Walter Boys, and it's I Need a Drink, available by Music Alley.
That's alright. I feel a need to laugh again with you, if that's alright.